All right, guys, so we just finished Unit 1, quadratics, but this Unit 2 is still focusing on quadratics. We're just going to do some different things as we work through this unit. So you'll need your note cards for what we're about to do. All right, guys, so here is your note card number 1. Here's the front of it, and as you can see, we're still on quadratics. This is number 11, just keeping this in a sequential order, and I'm just going to keep adding to this as we go through the school year this semester. So again, this is an EOC topic, but this is talking about factoring by GCF. So here's the front, here's the back. Guys, here is the second note card. This is factoring trinomials. Remember, trinomials has to have 3 terms. We're still talking about a quadratic, as you can see here. So quadratics number 12. This is an EOC topic as well. And here is the back of the note card. Go ahead and jot that down. All right, guys, so here's an example that we're going to look at. This is going to go with note card number 11, factoring by the GCF. And when you factor something, you got to remember it creates multiplication, which in turn, as note card number 11 says, it creates parentheses. So I'm going to look at however many terms I have. And I got to think, is there something that is common in both parts? Well, I have a 2x and I have a 4. And I know that I can divide both of these by 2. That would be my greatest common factor. So whatever I'm able to divide by, I'm going to take that and put it outside the parentheses. Because if you look at note card 11, it says when factoring we create multiplication. Well, we do. We have 2 times some parentheses right here. And the second part does say in that note card number 11, it says it creates multiplication, which in turn creates parentheses. Now, the stuff that goes inside is the result of when you divide by this GCF. So if I divide, those 2 things cancel out, and I'm just left with the x term. And then when I divide these 2 pieces, well, if I do plus 4 divided by 2, that gives me 2. And we've just factored this problem. Now, there's a way that I could check it. All I need to do is use the distributive property and multiply it back out. And if I do that and I get the exact same thing, then I'm good to go. All right, guys, so another example with factoring, again, by the GCF. This time I noticed that they both have numbers. And I know that, well, okay, I know they're both divisible by 5, so I can go ahead and do that. And then, that's supposed to be a 5, what's going on here? But I noticed that they both have variables, right? This has an x squared, this has just an x. Well, what is common in both parts? Well, there's 2 x's here, there's only 1 here, but what's common in both is just 1 x. There's at least 1 here, and there's at least 1 in these 2 parts here. Now, another way to do it is to write this out separately. 5x and x is the same as 5x squared. And then I look and notice, well, here is the same. I have at least 1x here, and there's at least 1 here that's common, right? So I'm going to divide by 5, because that goes into 5 and 10. But I'm only going to divide by x, because if you look, I only highlighted, this only had 1x. Well, there's at least 2 right here, but there's at least 1 and 2 that I can highlight. So whatever I divide goes outside. And then the result of me dividing is what goes inside. So I know the 5's cancel. Well, one of these x's on bottom, or this x on bottom, takes away 1 up top. And that leaves me with this little x left over. Now, understand, I'm going through this kind of fast. Many of you have done GCF before. I'm going to slow it down tomorrow in class for you. Notice the x's cancel. Well, negative 10 and 5 is negative 2. And we've just factored this problem. Oh, factoring is amazing. All right, guys, one more factoring by GCF. Notice this time I have 3 terms. So I'm still dealing with quadratic number 11, factoring by GCF. So I look at all 3 parts this time. Notice this has a variable, this has a variable, no variable here. So since there's no variable on this part, that means I can't take out a variable, okay? However, I look at my numbers, and I got to think, well, what goes into 4, 10, and negative 8? Well, what goes into all of that is a 2. So I know I can divide everything by a 2. Now, I would do the biggest number if I could, but that is the biggest number. So I'm going to put the 2 on the outside, and I'm going to make my parenthesis kind of big. The reason is because I have 3 terms. I should have that many terms inside my parentheses. So the variables didn't go away, so I'm going to have a y to the 3rd there. I'm going to have a y in the middle. Now I just got to figure out the numbers that go. So 4 divided by 2, 2. 10 divided by 2 is a plus 5. And then negative 8 and 2 gives me negative 4. And we've just factored our problem. Factoring creates multiplication, which in turn creates parentheses. Notice I've got 2 times this, and I have parentheses, so I'm good to go. Last one right here for us is factoring. I have a trinomial, but what to bring your attention to is it's a quadratic trinomial. This goes along with note card number 12. In note card number 12, step number 1 in blue said we're going to find all the multiples. I'm going to find all the multiples of this term right here. Well, the thing you got to look at is, well, there's a 1 in front. Well, what are all the ways to multiply to get 1x squared? Well, the only way to do that is to multiply x times x. That's the only way I can multiply to get x squared. That is step number 1 from the note card number 12. Step number 2 says find all the multiples of the last term. Okay, well, I come over here. I look at the last term being 12. And step number 2 says what are all the ways to multiply to get 12? Well, there's a few. I could do 1 times 12. I could do 6 times 2, 2 times 6, whatever. Or I could do 3 times 4. And then what I want to do is to figure out which of these combinations would be used when I write my answer. If you look at note card number 12, it should be with 2 parentheses. And the question is, what do I fill in right here? Now, what I want you to do is to, as it says on the note card, number 3, it says to guess and check. You have values 1 and 12, 6 and 2, 3 and 4. Where do I put those pieces? Where do I put the x's? Where do I put these numbers? Which one should I use? It needs to go in here. And if you know you're correct, if you want to know you're correct, you could always multiply it out to see if you get with what you started. Now, some of you, I know how to do this because you've had geometry in the past. Some of you, this might be a foreign language right now. Tomorrow in class, we'll pick up factoring.